Hello, everyone. I'm Cheldin Rumor, and this is it. Welcome back to This Is It TV. It's always a pleasure to talk to our next guest. It's so important to have these conversations, and we have a good one for you today. If he could introduce and reintroduce himself and all he's got going on, that would be awesome.
Sure. I'm, of course, Louis Bezich, men's health advocate, contributing writer to PhillyVoice.com, and the author of Crack the Code, 10 Proven Secrets that Motivate Healthy Behavior and Inspire Fulfillment in Men Over 50. Sheldon, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm so good. As you know, we're coming off of our This Is It Network Live event. You
Yeah,
joined me on stage.
loved
Always a
it. Loved
pleasure.
it.
So
Yeah.
much fun and a wealth of knowledge. So thank you so much for your time. I wanted to say that before we got ourselves started, but we have a great topic for today. What are we up to?
Today, we're doing a little men's health report card, Sheldon. I love to track all the research that's out there on men's health to kind of see how we're doing out there. And one of the surveys that comes out every year, actually, it's the ninth year this year, comes from the Cleveland Clinic, where they survey 1,000 men 18 and over nationwide to get their perspectives and sort of track progress on healthy behavior and men's health in particular. And the results this year are sort of mixed, I would say. There's clearly an interest and a recognition that men's health and their health is a priority. The downside is that, well, acting on those priorities may be a little bit of a different story.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. So they acknowledge it, but
Yes.
not necessarily acting on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let me break it down for you a little bit.
Yes,
So
please.
87% of the men polled say they considered or are concerned about their health, and 95%, an even higher number, say that healthy lifestyle is a top priority. And then
Okay.
on top of that, 74% have a fear of cancer. So sometimes a little bit of fear is good as a motivator. So the inspiration seems to be there, the recognition, the acknowledgement seems to be there. However, when the pollers asked questions about actions, when it came to one of the most basic things in health, which is an annual physical, an annual checkup, we see that the numbers drop off, and there's a little bit of a generational difference here. So boomers and Gen X acknowledged that they would get an annual physical at a rate of 61%. When it came to millennials and Gen Z, that drops to a rate of 31% to get an annual physical. So you can see here, us older guys can maybe teach something to the youngins about, like, at least get in there once a year and get your physical. When it comes to smoking and vaping, again, the older guys do a little bit better. Boomers and Gen X avoid smoking and vaping at a rate of 60%, where that drops to 43% among millennials and Gen Z. So again, the older guys a little bit better now. One final number, when it comes to mental health, the numbers are reversed a little bit. Younger men do a little bit better. Boomers and Gen X are willing to acknowledge and address mental health needs at a rate of 53%, where millennials and Gen Z at a rate of 59% will acknowledge that men have mental health issues. So a little bit higher there. So maybe in the future, as these guys, age a little bit, they'll spread the word and maybe influence us older guys that, hey, mental health needs, stress, depression, loneliness are things that, it's okay to acknowledge.
Right. I think it's an interesting thing, especially the smoking and the vaping. There was huge campaigns to combat that, right? There was huge
Yeah.
campaigns, at least in my youth, as I was coming up, as it relates to the dangers of that for your health, right? There was a huge initiative, communication, television, billboards, all of the things. And I think that that's a result of where it is, where that has kind of died off. And then this new vaping kind of space as an alternative, but in some cases more dangerous, has really, intersected the youth of without all of that combative kind of advertising to support that, which I think is kind of interesting. I also think it's interesting to acknowledge that they're more mindful than they are physical, right? So they're really recognizing all of the things that are going on between their ears, but they're not necessarily moving their bodies, right? So I think that
Exactly.
that's an interesting thing and a cross sector that we can really have a conversation about, that physical health is part of your mental health and mental health is part of your physical health. And what does that
Yeah.
really look like as far as really the overarching getting it together? I think we had talked about even before we hit record, acknowledging that there is a problem is super
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah,
and
yeah. Look,
they're willing to
you
do.
know, the psychologists tell us that what they call pre-contemplation and contemplation, thinking about acting is the first step. So, that's the little nugget of positivity I take out of these survey results from the Cleveland Clinic, that at least guys have this on their mind, top of mind. Now, getting to act on that is another factor. And when we look at, what's behind this inaction, it's the same old stuff. It's, views of masculinity, unfortunately, that suggest that, going to the doctor is exhibiting a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
It's showing vulnerability. And of course, though, we got to be independent and not show that. So that's what we still need to work on. And again, you and I have spoken before in areas where even in like mental health, where we've got, NFL football players acknowledging, depression and things like that. So I think it's those sort of, conversations we've had, plus some of these results that show at least men are acknowledging
Yeah.
what they need to do is a positive sign.
I think so too. And I think that, you are an advocate for this, the conversations, right? If you don't talk
Yes,
about it, it doesn't really exist. We can claim busy, we can claim we can't fit it in, we can all of the things, and no one is short of things to do, right? And things that
right.
occupy their time and stresses and all of those kinds of things. But you've always been really great about what to incorporate in your life as a lifestyle and how do we make these lifestyle changes. And as opposed to it being like, you've got to go to the doctor, really being about how do you want to live your life and what do you have to look forward
Right.
to
Right.
and why are these things so important to you? And I think more
Absolutely.
conversation
No,
like this.
we always try to give men the why behind it, right? It's not
Yeah.
just because some doctor says it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Staying healthy allows you to enjoy those social and cultural activities in life that we love, the children, the grandchildren, travel, the wives, retirement, encore careers. All that has one common denominator, as we often say, which is being healthy enough to do those things.
Healthy enough. Being healthy enough to participate in your own life. Acknowledgement is the first step. So I'm happy that they're at least doing that. Now we just have to combat that or be able to work in conjunction with that in order for them to take some action. And so I know that you have some wonderful tips in order for them to do that. And we can share that in all the conversations that we have. But this information is really useful, I think. And I don't think we think about it enough. And now at least we know that they're willing to address it. So that's good.
Yeah, and I love, in closing, I love the intergenerational nature of this. There's some things that the older guys can teach the youngins, and there's some things that the youngins can, teach the older guys. And to me, that's the real dynamic that takes place and can actually be a lot of fun and create some interest.
Right, absolutely. You're an advocate of that with your sons, with your
Yeah,
grandchildren. I
yeah,
mean, I think that it becomes a family affair, as we always
yes,
encourage when we
yeah.
have these conversations. Always a pleasure every single time, pointing us in the right direction. If people want to get in touch with you, if they want to follow, fan, and like you, as I like to say, where do they find that information?
You can find me, of course, on social media at Louis Bezich and at my website, louisbezich.com. You'll see everything that's going on in my world of men's health and healthy behavior.
I love it. It's that simple. Get in touch with my dear friend. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. From all of us here at This Is It TV, I'm Cheldin Barlett Rumor, and we will see you soon. Take care.